My amendment simply would strike Section 238 of the bill to ensure that CMS can enforce the law protecting home caregivers from having their Medicaid payments diverted to third parties.
It's an anti-union rule that would harm home care workers and strip them of their union rights to organize for better wages. Now, let me remind you once again that the majority of home care workers are women of color and, as our chair said, have been systematically denied basic labor rights and protections for decades. Quite frankly, the Trump administration's rule, it's a direct attack on communities and people of color and women. They are those who work in the home care fields. This is what we call systemic discrimination that we're trying to dismantle. This is going in the wrong direction. These workers provide essential care to our parents, grandparents, and children, all communities, that we should do everything we can to improve access to health care. Not only would this amendment attack home care workers' rights, but it would have significant impact on the ability of seniors and people with disabilities to find care providers in their communities and have a voice in their care. And so we must maintain the language in this bill preventing the administration from moving forward with this labor attack. And we should stand with home care workers who desperately need more protections. They should have the right to unionize, and quite frankly, they should make a heck of a lot more money.
The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, recently finalized a rule that would prevent home care workers from contributing their own wages to support their union in the same way that teachers, police officers, and firefighters do. This is nothing more than an attack on unionized workers. Home care workers have chosen to stand together in a union to advocate for higher wages, basic benefits like health care and sick leave, and better training opportunities. The rule would harm the quality of home care, which millions of families rely on to ensure that family members can live with dignity in their own homes. Home care workers are paid a wage through Medicaid. They have a right to choose what they want to do with their paychecks, with the money that they have earned. Home care work is usually low paid. It leads to a high rate of turnover, but unions have been able to improve wages and benefits for workers in this field. This proposed action is not about concern about the use of Medicaid funding. It is an attack on the right of home care workers to have a voice in their jobs and a chance to access benefits like health care. In short, this is nothing less than an attempt to exploit an unrelated law to hurt some home care workers and their ability to join together and fight for health care and for a living wage.
The administration's rule is an attack on the modern labor movement. Mainly, this hurts women, and in particular, women of color, who make up the majority of our home health workforce. It also hurts the people who rely on home health care workers every day. These are seniors and people with disabilities. Through a union, home care workers have won higher wages and basic benefits that they wouldn't be able to negotiate on their own, like paid sick days and vacation time. Home care workers, like all other workers, should have the right to contribute the money that they have earned, to your point, Madam Chair, to pay union dues. This is money they have earned. Home health care is among the fastest growing occupations in our nation. We need to find ways to strengthen and to support the home health workforce rather than make them a target of partisan attacks.
These are our constituents, our friends, and our neighbors who do important work, challenging work, caring for seniors, caring for people with disabilities. And the work they do is really tough. I was with a woman named Judy who cared for a gentleman named David who had had terrible burns, and part of her job was treating his wounds, cleaning his burns. These are really important jobs because they involve some of our most vulnerable citizens. They're important because we know that recruitment and retention of home care workers is really essential. It's also really cost-effective, too, when you can provide care for someone in a home or a community-based setting rather than institutional care. And as the chairwoman said, just like teachers and firefighters and police officers, home care workers have the right to choose to join a union and to choose to support it with their own wages. And the CMS rule that this amendment relates to would deny home care workers the choice to join together in strong unions. It would deny their ability to spend their wages as they choose. I'm against that. I think that's a bad idea. We're all getting older. We don't know what the future holds for any of our families, and we should be finding ways to strengthen the home care workforce, not to weaken it.
And it is not right that CMS is attempting to weaponize Medicaid to break down the rights of workers and the fabric of unions and organized labor in this country. All workers should have the right to collectively bargain for better pay and for better working conditions. And this rule and this amendment undermines that right in a profound way. And I want to speak just very briefly from personal experience, having hired many home care workers for my own parents. As my mom suffered Alzheimer's, my dad had a stroke. In one under 2-year period, we went through 23 different home care workers. And I got to know these people and the struggles. And my parents weren't easy to care for, but I could not have done my job. My husband and I could not have raised our boys without their help. And they need our help. In the midst of a dramatic workforce shortage with turnover rates as high as 60%, this rule is going to make it even more difficult for seniors and people to find and keep consistent quality care that lets them live at home with the dignity they want and they deserve. Given this demand, we should be finding ways to strengthen this critical workforce. It's about time we give the women of color that dominate this workforce the respect they deserve. And I yield back.
So I understand why these low-wage, highly important people band together to form a union. Because some of these families, they're working several jobs, transportation's a factor, they have young kids. So they choose to pull together to have a voice that speaks for them, and that's the union. So what this gets down to now is you've decided union, and now you want to use a payroll deduction. A lot of us use payroll deductions, and that's a choice. And that's a choice that was given to them by the United States Supreme Court in Harris versus Quinn. And now we're going to take it away. So think hard about how important it is for these people to be able to pull together to make sure that they're paid an adequate wage and they get the adequate training and equipment they need to do their jobs effectively and safely for themselves and the people that they're serving. And then just think about how you'd feel if somebody started telling you what you could or could not do with your payroll deduction. I oppose this amendment.
Yeah, I don't know if many of my colleagues have ever walked a day in the shoes of a home care worker. They're not just workers. They're advocates for our loved ones, for the people that they work for. When I have town halls with home care workers, they don't talk about their pay or their needs. They always talk about their patients and the need for training so that they can do a better job for the people that they serve. That's who they are. Already they suffer 60% attrition rate, 60%. That means that we're wasting a lot of money training and retraining new people when we should be investing in them. We should be talking about giving them a raise. We should be talking about giving them overtime for their wages. We should be talking about accommodating breaks and lunches and such things as every other worker automatically receives. I hope that you will consider this when you look at this amendment and you think about someday you're going to depend on someone else. And I hope that that person gets a break every now and then so they have the patience to deal with you. And I hope that they get overtime so they're happy to help you. And I hope that they are able to join a union and, yes, have auto automatically deduction from their paycheck because that's what they want to do with their money. Stop telling people how to use their money.
Those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it, and the amendment is not adopted.